It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what you intended. Thought that you...
Hi there, music fans, and welcome to another installment of Pop Profiles, the show that never fails in serving you the freshest slice of chart music pie. Now tuck in.
Talking cheap like it was mad love to you. You wanted my heart, but I just liked your tattoos. Hold it down.
On the menu today is a young, starry-eyed Brit who has enjoyed some halcyon days at the top of the international music scene. That's right, it's Ellie Goulding.
Why I got you on my mind. You know something. Why I got you on
Ellie Goulding, I think, is one of the most interesting and unique singers of the last 10 years.
She certainly has an absolutely unique voice. When she puts that to genuine classic tracks, then the results are quite special.
What you'll see from her is a lot of great songs that are catchy, pop-like, but also stuff that's going to stay with us for a very long time.
She's fearless, she's delicate, and she's a pop powerhouse.
I know that I've been messed up. You never let me give up.
So where do we begin to investigate Ellie Goulding's meteoric rise in pop? In a place called Herefordshire. Where else?
Yeah, you understand. Yeah, like no one can. I know that we don't look like much, but no.
Ellie Goulding was born in Herefordshire and brought up in a really small village. She was part of quite a big family. Her mum worked in a supermarket. Her dad was part of a family of funeral home owners.
I lived literally like in a village in the middle of nowhere, and it took like an hour just to get to a town on the bus, so yeah, a country girl, believe it or not.
She had kind of a hard time growing up, though, because her parents separated when she was 5, and Ellie really didn't get on with her stepfather.
But she kept really focused and really strived for lots of music within her future and knew where she really wanted to be, and that's what really drove her beyond the surroundings she was in.
By the time Ellie was 9, she was learning the clarinet, and by the time she was 15, she'd also had the guitar under her belt as well.
Well, she's gonna need a bigger belt. Over the years, Ellie's interest in music grew and her taste for performing would develop during her time at school.
So Ellie started writing songs when she was at sixth form college, and then when she was at university, she started entering talent contests, and that's how she was spotted by a guy called Jamie Lillywhite. Now, he got Ellie to audition for the head of the agency, a lady called Sarah Stennett. They signed Ellie up there and then.
It usually isn't that easy. But Ellie soon quit university and headed for London, where she started to release material.
There was this track, Under the Sheets, which was not really kind of sung and danced about. It kind of quietly slipped out there, but very quickly became a really big club tune. It was one of those songs that everyone was talking about. It became the sound of the summer of that time. And that's when the industry started picking up on her.
Ellie won the BBC Sound of 2010 poll, which recognises all of the future stars of the music industry. She was also the Critics' Choice at the Brit Awards in that same year. Plus, she'd already started writing songs for artists at the time, such as Gabriella Chilmi and Diana Vickers.
Things were going great for the young wannabe pop star, but it would be a collaboration with another up-and-coming British artist that would propel Ellie Goulding further in the right direction.
At the time, Tiny was a rising star, and Ellie had met him previously at a gig in Camden Town. They kept in touch and finally managed to get into the studio, creating Wonder Man, which was a #3 hit in the UK.
It was a really good choice to pair her with someone who at that point was very much in the public eye and was doing really well, and that really boosted her image at that time.
With a sufficiently boosted image, Ellie thought it about time she released her debut album. And that's exactly what she did with 2010's Lights.
Ellie released her debut album Lights in 2010 and it got some great reviews. I think it's a really fun pop electro record, and it really showcases her unique style of singing, a kind of ethereal, sultry, soulful sound that's really unique to her.
I remember when Lights came out and I passed the poster in a train station and remember thinking, this looks really cool, looks really different. And then when I listened to the album, it had such a fresh sound. And I probably wasn't the only one that thought that, because it sold 1.6 million copies worldwide.
It actually made a bit of impression in America. It got to number 21 in the chart there, which was kind of a precursor to the success that she would have.
Ellie would initially gain chart success in the UK, though, with the first single to be taken from Lights, Starry Eyed, proving hugely popular.
Everybody is starry-eyed, and everybody knows. Everybody is starry-eyed.
Her debut single from the album Lights, called Starry Eyed, is brilliant. It's all about letting go, and that's exactly what you feel like when you're listening to this track.
It's a great song. It's got all those elements that really are the kind of now the signature sound of Ellie Goulding. It's quite pop and electro, but also quite folky as well in the way that she delivers the lyrics. And it was a great success in the UK and in America. She got to perform it on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Her voice was so unique. The video was very cool as well.
But Ellie would be exposed to an even bigger audience when she was asked to cover a classic Elton John song for what would go on to be a massively popular Christmas TV commercial.
So excuse me for getting, but these things I do. You see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue.
One of the seminal moments in Ellie's career was the John Lewis Christmas advert in 2010. I mean, ever since, people wait and anticipate the advert every single year to see if it can emulate that success.
In the UK, everyone and their grandma's dog watches that advert. It's a very, very big deal. The song actually went to number 2, and I think it cemented Ellie in everyone's hearts at that time.
This is a song. It may be quite simple, but
The track did incredibly well on its own, but if you couple it up at Christmas, which is an emotive time of year, with Ellie's voice, which is naturally mournful, and the fact that it's an incredibly emotive song anyway, then it really resonated in the public mind.
I try out a smile.
Ellie would use this platform to really launch herself to pop stardom and work tirelessly throughout 2010 and 2011 to achieve even greater heights.
I've got a plan. Why don't you be the artist? I'll make me out of clay.
During that time, Ellie performed at Coachella, Tea in the Park, the iTunes Festival. She supported U2, Glastonbury's BBC Introducing Stage, and she sang at the Royal Wedding as well. You can't get much better than that.
Or so you'd think, because in 2011, Ellie wasn't just sharing a stage with some of the world's biggest stars.
The Rolling Stone annual Hot List put Ellie Goulding at number 5 throughout 2011. What a great achievement for her.
Ellie was now starting to achieve some of her wildest dreams. California dreams, to be exact.
Katy Perry's California Dreams tour was a hugely significant point for Ellie Goulding's career. She only stepped in at the last minute when Jessie J, who was originally her support act, broke her foot and couldn't tour anymore. And this was the first big stadium experience for Ellie Goulding.
This is like, you know, moving up a level in terms of profile. Katy Perry's pop royalty in America. So being associated with her, having access to her audience, all of that can only be a good thing.
With so many experiences and influences to draw upon, it's not surprising that Ellie's sound is so hard to pin down to one particular genre.
I write my own songs, I play guitar, play drums, and I sing kind of like a mixture between Beyonce and Björk. So it's quite weird.
Ellie's been characterised as an indie-tronica artist, electro indie, and I can see what people mean. There's elements of acoustic, there's elements of kind of classic singer-songwriter stuff. It is all very electro-influenced. I mean, the real thing that sets Ellie apart is that unique vocal.
In 2012, Ellie Goulding made easy work of the notoriously difficult second album when she released the critically acclaimed Halcyon.
Halcyon was a great album for Ellie Goulding. It featured some high-profile collaborations, like one with Calvin Harris, but it was also an album that was really written from the heart. There are a couple of tracks on there which refer to her father, who she hasn't actually seen since she was 19 years old and has never actually congratulated her on her success.
But I know you care. know it has always been there. But there is trouble ahead, I can feel it.
She co-produced 7 out of the 13 tracks. She co-wrote all but 1. She's never really been credited much as a songwriter, but I mean, this shows she can.
The album hit top 4 in the UK and was a top 10 in the US.
Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll see how Ellie turned Cupid for Calvin Harris and, spoiler alert, won herself a Grammy.
I know it's always been there.
Welcome back to Pop Profiles. Today we're focusing all our attention on the princess of Indie-tronica, Ellie Goulding. With 2 hugely successful albums now in her back catalogue and aged just 25, Ellie Goulding was proving that, well, anything could happen.
The lead single from the second album, Anything Could Happen, was really well received, and it did really well for promoting that album for Ellie Goulding.
I think it's such a positive song. It's written about her childhood and her kind of forward thinking that anything can happen. She can make anything happen, and she did.
I need your love, I need your time. When everything's wrong, you make it right.
For me, the standout track is I Need Your Love with Calvin Harris. I mean, pretty much anything Calvin touches turns to gold, and it's a massive pop hit.
I Need Your Love was a massive worldwide hit. It went down really well in the clubs, radio loved it, and the video was very intriguing. Saw the 2 of them frolicking, kissing away on camera. Who knows what was actually going on there?
By the end of 2012, Ellie's success wasn't limited to the music charts, as a number of her songs were being featured in television and film soundtracks.
Ellie has had her music featured in quite a lot of young adult fiction adaptations. So The Hunger Games Catching Fire, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, Divergent, and her music fits perfectly with the kind of audience that go to see these films.
Wanna hear your beating heart tonight before the bleeding sun comes.
Not only is Ellie a young adult herself, but her vocals sound really fresh and young, and they have that sort of fantastical quality to them, which I think lends itself to being associated with those sorts of films.
Safe to say that by this point, Ellie Goulding was on fire, metaphorically at least, and she only added fuel to the flames with her next single, Burn. How hot can one person get?
And we're gonna let it burn, 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 burn. We're gonna let it burn, 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 burn. Gonna let it burn, 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 burn. We're gonna let it burn, 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 burn.
Burn features on the repackaged version of Halcyon Days, which came out afterwards, and actually was Ellie's first #1. And it shows, I think, her kind of progression in her songwriting and in her style.
When we open it up, when it's open now, we got the love.
Burn was clearly the standout track on Halcyon Days, and that was reinforced by the fact that, yeah, she hit the #1 spot with it.
More chart success followed, with the second single to be taken off the re-released Halcyon Days album, How Long Will I Love You?
How long will I want you? As long as you want me to, and longer by far.
I really love How Long Will I Love You. I think it's such a simple track. It's really beautiful, it's very slow, and it's kind of something that really shows off her voice.
With her music everywhere and chart success now becoming a common occurrence for Ellie Goulding, it was only a matter of time before the industry bigwigs took notice.
In 2014, Ellie won the Best British Female Solo Artist Award at the Brit Awards. And I think she did really well in what was a tough year. There was a lot of really strong contenders for that category that year, the likes of Jessie J, Laura Marling as well, who was really blowing up at that time. So it's a pretty big deal for Ellie to walk away with that award.
It was an interesting one because she actually hadn't released an album for that year. And I think what it does is it reaffirms her as one of the UK's top performing artists at that time.
And what do top performing artists do best? Well, they put on top performances, obviously.
Ellie Goulding performed at the Royal Variety Show in the UK, which is a really big deal. It's something that everyone watches and everyone talks about. And she wore this incredible 600-foot massive white dress that was just absolutely unbelievable. And it had all this kind of light show projected on it, and it moved through the performance. It was headline-grabbing stuff.
It took 3 people 5 days to make, and what you don't see is there's professional puppeteers underneath the dress, operating it. It was very, very odd, but I mean, it made the papers.
And it wasn't just Ellie's fashion choices that were making the headlines, when she added another string to her Cupid's bow and tried her hand at matchmaking.
When I hold you.
Yes, apparently we have Ellie Goulding to thank for Talvin, Taylor Swift and Calvin Harris. She got them together at a Grammys after party, I think it was, and her main reason was because they were quite tall and quite beautiful, so the rest is history.
Ellie's stint at playing Cupid was a short one, and she soon returned to doing what she does best. In 2015, she sent her fans into delirium with her 3rd album.
It's a little blurry how the whole thing started. I don't even really know what I've been so high. Follow me through the dark. Let me take you past the satellites.
In early 2015, Ellie released that monster hit, which was Love Me Like You Do. Hit the #1 spot in the UK. It was #3 in the States. She received a Grammy off it. It was on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, and she also got a Brit nomination from it too.
It broke the record for the most streamed track in the UK as well, and it seemed to be a real return to form, and like she'd taken that breakthrough from the 2nd tier into the top tier.
What are you waiting for? Love me like you do. Love me like you do. Like you do. Love me like you do. Love me like you do.
Love Me Like You Do was featured in the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, and it's all about kind of falling hopelessly in love and losing control whilst doing it. So it was a perfect fit for that film.
Ellie's also managed to fit right in with some of music's most powerful female players, and many believe that her live performances have only benefited from her experiences with these girls.
I have a real passion for female singers and writers because I feel like I've met so many singers who, even though they have very different backgrounds to me, are on a similar path, a similar journey.
So Ellie Goulding has some very famous friends. She's good buddies with Katy Perry and Taylor Swift. Now, obviously, being friends with people that famous, it gives you a huge public profile as well, because they're always in the papers, you get seen together, that kind of thing, you get to go on tour together. But also, apparently this helped Ellie change her stagecraft.
In the early days, she used to be more all about the music and not really wanting to be that show person, but where she would go out and she would just wear a little hoodie on stage and she'd be quite insular in the way she would perform. Now, try and stop her. She's wearing hot pants on stage, everything's a big production.
And it's not just her live performances that have changed over the years.
Ellie's growth has been clear to see. Obviously, going on tour with Katy Perry, she would have got a lot of experience and learnt a lot there. But musically as well, she's expanded her repertoire, working with Skrillex. She's got a track with Major Lazer as well. So giving us a different musical offering.
Ellie's work's obviously evolved over her 3 albums. At the start, it is very much indie pop with some folk influences, a bit of electro. Album number 2 is the same thing, but by the time we get to Delirium, it's much more electronic and electro-focused, and that's the way that chart pop music is going in general.
I think it's fair to say that whatever direction pop music moves in, this talented singer-songwriter will always be at the forefront and at the top end of the international music charts.
I'll show you what it feels like now I'm on the outside. I'll show you what it feels like.